Welcome back. We would want to proceed a little bit more with our Microsoft Word. It's a bit difficult to cover as much as is possible, but we'll try and add as many of these videos as is possible. And we'll also try and make sure that we learn all that there is to learn in Microsoft Word. So one of the options that is there is our view, whereby we've got different modes of view. So as you can see here, we've got a read mode, a print layout, a web layout, an outline, and a draft. Okay. If we select the read mode, it changes everything so that we can see any of the pages that we want to read. But since we don't have any content here, it's difficult to see what that looks like. The print mode is the mode that we've been using all along. We've also got a web layout where we can be able to save everything in the web layout and view things in the web layout. We've also got an outline where it gives us a different setup or a different stage of things that we can work with, where we can be able to work with levels, level 1, 2, up to 9. We can also close this view. We can also go to a draft mode where we can just then see how this document looks. So each of these elements help us to be able to view different perspectives of what we want to actually do. So it still helps when we have stuff that we have typed. So as you remember, we had our lorem ipsum that we can be able to put some text. Let's just get some of that so that we can see, instead of typing, we can get more of what we need and get to see the different views that we've got. So this is just pretty much with our views. We looked at the ruler and the guidelines and the navigation panel in one of the lessons, but we'll get to it so that we get to go through it again. So let's just say I copy this information here. I copy it, I paste it. Okay. I can maybe just change the layout so that it looks slightly better than what I'd hoped for. Okay, so we've got the following. Okay, we just want to see what our views do. We can go to view, we then select read mode, and with read mode you then see that we are then looking at it as if it's pages. So this will be the first page, second page. If I click on there, I'll be able to get the last page, and this is what our read mode would look like, so that we can be able to read whatever contents we've got. We can go back to our print layout, which shows us how everything was originally. We can also go to our web layout, where we can be able to see it as if we are viewing it from a web page. Okay. At the same time, we can also have an outline, where, as you can see with our outline, it shows us small dots on the edge, where we can actually be able to select different things. But however, with our outline, let's say we wanted to make this a specific style. Let's say I make it a heading 1. You actually then see that the outline changes there. If I select this as well, I change the style, I make it a heading 2. You actually notice that we change the level. If I do the same for the last one, I change the style, I make it a heading 3. Our levels are changing. So what this then means is we're actually just looking at the headings or the styles that we've got and the formatting that we would have put to each and every element. So if I put my mouse on any of these contents or any of this content, it will actually show me in relation to the level. So that's pretty much how we can work with our outline. At the same time, we can select our draft. Our draft just pretty much gives us how each element is created, stored, and used. But this won't be something that you guys will be needing to know per se, but it's something that you can work with and be able to view and be able to see how certain things are going. At the same time, we can also work with the ruler. If you remember, we said the ruler gives us these edges. So it's already highlighted. If I remove it, we'll be able to see that the ruler goes away. If I select it, you see that these rulers there are now active. I can also select grids. If you remember, grids, we just said will give us area where, or an area where our grid is actually put, and it'll show by having these small boxes. At the same time, we can have the navigation panel, which is just this, which gives us the headings, the pages, and the results. As of now, we don't want to use it. At the same time, we can have our zoom, where if we select our zoom, we can be able to pick a size that we want. So for example, I can select 200%, click on OK, and then we get to see our page in a slightly different manner. At the same time, I can also select the whole page, and then it gives me the perspective of the page, or it gives us the perspective of the page. But by default, we're on 75%, which gives us a view that is slightly better, although you can still improve it and maybe change it to a different percentage, and you can see how this would work. At the same time, we can just go on 100%, and then it gives us the normal view that I think we will be using at any given point in time. At the same time, we can select a one page, we can select multiple pages, we can select page width to suit the zoom perspective that we want. At the same time, if we've got more than one document open, we can actually be able to work with the window. So let's open another document so that we view what is there. For example, we'll actually work with the Insert tab in one of our lessons. Let's open that one. Okay, we go back to our new document. We then go to switch windows. We can actually be able to see the two documents that are there, or we can actually be able to arrange. And if we arrange, we can now be able to play around with the two documents simultaneously. We can also split, and the moment we split, we're splitting the document itself that we're working with, and we can have maybe a way where we can compare. Let's say we're typing our text, or we're using our text for whatever elements we want to work with. We can actually be able to compare and view whatever it is that we want to do. So we can remove split, and we can also make our view be side by side. We can also select a new window. Now, if we don't want to see that again, we just double click on the maximize so that we get back to our actual page. Although under this window, basically what we are saying is we're trying to put different positions or different ways of doing certain things that we can be able to use for our document or through our document. At the same time, we can then get to do whatever editing we are hoping to do with our particular document or for our particular document. So at the same time now, let's actually just save this document. We save it as let's just create a folder because we want to actually add a couple of things. So let's say tutorial. That's the name of our document. And with that being the name of our document, we then want to do the following. We want to get to the next stage of our learning, which is a bit more complex. Would need a step-by-step stage of doing what we want to do. But since we are recording this, we can do the step-by-step and see how each element works, and we'll be able to proceed. So we want to get to the next page or to the next bit that we want to work with, and that is our macros. We are working with our macros because a macro is simply a tool that we can use to do certain things within our Microsoft Word. And with our Microsoft Word, we can be able to store certain things. Okay. And we work with the macro, which is right there, where by default we can go to view and we see the type of macros that we've got. If there are none, it will be empty. If there are some, we'll be able to see something there. But let's actually go to the beginning and we go to record macro. So this is the way we actually start having our macros. It's where we actually start having the content or the things that we would want to have within our macros. Okay, so our macros will then start this way. We'll need to give our macro a name, and if we've got a description, we can be able to see what our description is. So for this particular instance, we might need to just give it a random name. So we can give our macro following name and we call it working with view, for lack of a better name. And then we can give it a description and we say the use of a macro within our document, like that. So we can click on OK, and then now we've got our macro, and our macro has started recording. As you can see on my mouse, I now have a simple tape that is there. So what exactly are we doing with our macro? We are saying whatever it is that we're doing in our Microsoft Word, we can actually be able to put it in a macro. So let's say we put the cooker. That I highlight the word the cookout. I come to my home. I select that as a heading. I then also start typing whatever it is that I want to type. So we can say it was a Saturday, November 16, 2015. We hosted a cookout with some family friends. Okay, all this that we're doing, we're recording. Okay, we can also put maybe a point, and we state fun AND gates. We can also then say bright and snacks, something along those lines. So we're just doing this so that we see how this works. Actually, it had actually stopped because I changed the start. Let's see if, okay, it was recording. It actually was recording. My mistake. So we can then start recording, okay? And this is what we did in our recording, okay? So let's just come back to our macros. Now we can view macros because we have it, okay? So what this then means is we've got working with you. If I use it there, we won't be able to see the difference. Let's maybe come before this uh, paragraph there. I go to macros, view macros, I click on run, and we'll then see the following. It gives us the cookout, gives us the text that we've got, but because we changed the text at one point and made it a heading, it then made the rest of the content a heading. So pretty much what this then means is our macros can be able to record certain things. Okay, we could have missed what we've done. I think we missed what we've done somewhere along the lines. Let's actually create a new one. But in this particular instance, we don't want to put everything that we did there. We just want to go through what we did to get our macro, and we take it from there. Okay, so we go to our macros, we select record new macro. We need to give it a name. At this time, we just say sample. This time we don't put a description. Click on OK. So we then want to type out whatever it is that we want to type out. So we can say the best format is, okay, and then we put our points. 1, clear points. 2, grammar. 3, decent plans. 4, conclusion. Right, we can stop recording, and then in this particular instance we've seen what we've typed out there. Let's just remove it. We then go to view macros, let's select run, and we'll actually see that it gives us exactly what we've typed in this particular instance. So in other words, if you've got stuff that you're working on or stuff that you might need to constantly repeat doing, you can actually be able to use your macros. One such example could be you want to put a signature, okay? And what is a signature? A signature can be something along these lines where you put your name, Peter Parker, let's say that's your name. We want to know your title. You are a director of communications. Where are you located? You're located at 347 Hyde Street in Kensington. Kensington. Put that spelling wrong, and that's in Harare. And then your email is Peter Parker at ion.co.zw and your phone is 581420, etc. So you can actually have this as part of your macro, whereby you can say this is what you want to actually record and keep a record of what you have recorded. And you can be able to then work with your macro in whatever document that you want to work with. However, there's other ways of working with your macros. But with these ways now, you can't use them in this particular section of our learning. For example, we can go to create under this. Sorry. We can go to type out the name that we want to work with, which is HA. We click on create. And then the moment we've done that now, we can now be able to create our macro in a new format. And as you can see now is we've got our new macro, which is there. We've also got our working with view, which is a previous macro. And this then gives us our macros, or how our macros work. And we can be able to see the text behind how our macros work. So these macros will have code as follows. So this then means we can be able to work with some code. So the first macro that we had was working with view. If we go back to our tutorial and we go to our macros, view macros, we can actually see we've got working with view. And then in this particular instance, we've got working with view and the content that gives us working with view. We can also come back to our page. We've got our sample and we've got our working with view. We can cancel that so that we go back here and we see that this is how our macros work. So if you know how to type out this syntax, which is known as code, you can also be able to create your macro from this end. Okay, so for example, let's just try it out. We'll copy something that is there and we change, or we put some information that we want to put. So for example, let's say I want to copy this and change that, or I want to use that content. So I put selection, then I put dot type text like that, and then from there I put text, I put a colon, I then put equal to, I then put my string. So the string that I want to put is the simplest way to create a macro is to record. I put an exclamation mark, I put the closing quotation. I can also put another section where I put selection, and I put type text, and then for the text I put the following is equal to when using code it's simple. Okay, I also put the same, put selection, I then put type backspace. I can also put another selection. This will be the last one. I then put type text, and then for the texts, I then put it as follows: equal to, and then we want to put our text. Thank you for following. Like, subscribe. Okay. From there, I can actually then save this information. Let's say I've saved it. I can click on play. I can even stop and reset. But in this particular instance now, I can't actually see what this is doing. So I need to go back to Word and see what I would have done. I actually played it more than once and then it gave me this. But we don't want to see this. Let's actually just remove everything. Okay, so we come back to our recording. I click on play like I did. I come back to my Word and then we see what I have typed out. It tells us this is the simplest way to create a macro. The simplest way to create a macro is to record. When using code, it's simpler. Thank you for following, like, and subscribe. Okay, so this is what we have done. But let's say we want to add more. We can now be able to put certain things. So let's say after this, I want to put a selection, and then I want to type. I want that to be a type paragraph. I also want to put a selection again, and then I want a type paragraph as well. So I save it. I come back to my tutorial, which is there. I see if there's nothing. Okay, I can click on play, come back to my document, and I'll actually see that the moment I put a paragraph, I put a space between the content that is there. So you can also find ways of learning this um, even on the internet, and you can play around with this section of our macros. Okay, so this then means I've got 3 macros. The top one I've actually put it myself. The next 2 I've actually recorded them myself. So we can then see what each element does. At the same time, we can also do an edit. Okay, an edit still takes us back to this. We can be able to change how certain things are done here. Okay, so for example, we had actually made our style, which was heading 1. I can actually remove that. Okay, I save it. I come back to my document and I place a new portion. I go to my back end or to my code, click on play, come back to my document, and then you actually see that this is how our macro is now running. It's not giving us the error or the problem that it gave us up here. It's now just giving us something that is slightly different from what we had. Okay. At the same time, we can also change some of the content that we had. For example, some of the things were not really done in the best possible way. For example, we might want to make this a capital letter. We might want to make that capital letter again. We might also want to change how this looks. Okay, so we can pretty much do the following. We edit the entire text and we start typing what we would want to see. Okay, think I'll put the following. It was a weekend set to a day 16 November 2050 where a couple of family friends and I went for some cookout, like that. Okay, this way we edit what everything does, and after editing we can click on save. We go back to our document and we run our macro from this end, and when we go back to our document we can then see how this looks, or this is structured. So we can also create various things working with our code. For example, I can put selection dot active application bookmark ID bookmark cells child space clear formatting. So maybe I can put clear formatting. I also put selection, then selection, then I can pick something else. Um, maybe hyperlinks, something along those lines. So if I come back to my document and run this, I should be able to see what this gives me. Okay, it's giving me a problem. I think hyperlinks can't work. Let me remove this. Let me run it again. Okay, that way it works, and we can see what is happening. Okay, so we can just save this and then return to Word, and then that is how our macros work. So basically all we are saying is we can be able to use our macros to design and shape certain attributes that we want within our document or within our page. So as we proceed or as we work with them, we can be able to actually use them for different things. Okay, the last thing is the properties, but we'll be working with SharePoint, which is outside of the scope of what we're wanting to deal with in terms of our learning. However, some of the things that we might need to point out as we are working with Microsoft Word are as follows. We want to be able to do the different types of documents. So we want to actually come to where it says save, or it's not necessarily save, but we go to file, and then file gives us all these options that we can work with. So for example, we can be able to export, right? We can export this document to either a PDF or an XPS. Okay, so if we select on create, we can then be able to actually export all this into a document, which is a PDF type. And the moment we come here, we can then say this is the first version. So we put it as 1. We click on save so that it actually creates our document the way we have instructed it to be. So in this particular instance, it's created it as a PDF. We can also do the same with our save as, okay, which pretty much would give us almost the same output. But with our save as now, we can actually now be able to play around with the different document types that we've got here. So for example, we can actually put it as a Word 97 2003 document, and we can then work with it from there. So, as we were saying, you can then be able to save this document. And if we are to go to our location, we should be able to see the type of documents that we have actually put. So if we come here, we now have 3 types of documents. The first one is our PDF. The next one is our doc. The next one is our ordinary Word document. So with these documents, we can now be able to see the types of documents that we can work with. At the same time, I don't know why this is still open. Okay. At the same time, we can also be able to save as different types of documents. For example, we can use XPS document, and that looks like this. It's just an extension. We can't open it using any known formats, but I'm sure we should be able to work with Word to do that. We can also be able to put it as a web page. We click on save, and then our web page also looks something along those lines. Okay, so in a nutshell, we can safely say we've covered most of the content of our Microsoft Word. But we've got certain things that we can actually be able to add to what is currently existing or what we currently have so that we can be able to view and access certain things in our Microsoft Word. So for example, we can go to new and we can pick any of the templates that are available. So for example, let's say you want to make a calendar, okay? If this calendar is available, we just select it, and whilst we're selecting it, it actually goes to the internet, it downloads whatever content we've got, and with that content, we'll be able to download our template. So we can be able to actually create our own templates or work with our templates to do specific aspects of what we want to do. So let's say, for example, as a student, you want to create a basic layout of how your thesis is going to be. You can actually take time to create a template, and with this template, you then know majority of my stuff comes here. And I want to be able to just edit whatever it is that I want to edit so that I get to use what I've edited in the proper perspective or in the proper way that I can actually use my work so that it is easier to just work with the content that is available. So this is taking a little bit of time. I'm not sure why. Let's just give it a few minutes and take it from there. Okay, so our template is done, and here's what our template looks like, where I'm sure most of these things we've actually seen them in our designs. And this would be a planner, so to speak, where I think majority of these things we can be able to reproduce if we want. But since it's a template, we can actually be able to edit and put some content in there. So for example, it says client name there. We can put that as Gabriel Banda. We can put their number, which can be 0772 478 960. We can also have Peter, and their number is 0242 562 110. You can also have a Gladys, and their number is 0712 552 110, etc. So we're actually just saying with a template, we can actually be able to use whatever is existing and use it for whichever aspect we are hoping to get. However, this does not mean we can't also make our own template. Okay, so we can save this template as a calendar template, or let's just call it a planner template, like that. Okay, so this is a planner template. Maybe let's get into that. We try and design our own template and we save it as a template. Okay, we go on new, we select a blank document, and then we want to design how we would want our template to be. Okay, so first things first, we learned about watermarks, and our watermarks, we find them under design, and let's put a custom watermark. Okay, so we put our text, and let's call this one basics of Word, something along those lines, for lack of a better term. Click on OK, and then we've got our basics of Word. But at the same time, we want to put certain effects. Okay, so let's say with our template, we want to put some shapes. I think something along these lines would be perfect. Okay, this we can maybe leave it like that. Templates are easy to work with, although difficult, in that you then need to come up with a plan. And we say this could be Word content. Okay. My mistake. Word. Word content, something along those lines. We then want to just design a basic template. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be a template. Something along those lines. And then we'll put a date, put a time, put a client, put a signature. Something along those lines. And let's just roughly say that this is our own template that we want to work with. So we go to File, we go to Save As, we select the folder that we've been working with, which is Microsoft Word, and then we call it Basic Template. So with our templates, we can be able to design them to suit the idea we're going for. So let's say you want to be able to create a class list where you want to be able to have each individual access, save it, and pass it on to the next individual. So you can actually create a template for that. So when we're saving it now, we then go to where it says template. So we can just make it a Word template, or if you want, we can make it a macro enabled template, whereby we can be able to put some of the conditions that we want to work with and allow the user to be able to access those functions. So with our macros, we can also use them within our templates or work with them within our templates so that at least we've got something that we can work with and we can do. So in our folder, we'll then actually then get to see that uh, the template, if we have saved it properly, should now exist. But with our template, I don't think we can find it in, okay, we can actually find it in where we saved it, which is basic template. So it then means when we are starting a new program or a new whatever, a new aspect, we can be able to pick a template like we've got these other templates. Okay, so we won't be able to exhaust all the templates that we've got, but in your pastime, you can actually be able to go through the templates and see what is practical and what is possible. Because we're also working with a virtual video, we can't be able to print our content, but we can be able to see the account. So for example, since we've got the account set up, we can actually be able to see and put certain things about the account. So we can put a picture, we can put an about, we can be able to sign out, put another account. We can also be able to work with our options. There are very many options that we can work with. But with these options, I'd suggest you only work with them when you understand what each option does and how you can work with the various options that are there. So I think as of now, I think this will be our last word lecture or our last word tutorial. Any extras, I think I will add to the existing word content. But as of now, I think I can stop here and this will be our final word lecture.